Hi everybody and welcome back, and happy almost Thanksgiving. I'm releasing this video the week before American Thanksgiving, and in keeping with that theme, today we're going to be talking about gratitude. Now, I know some of you are probably like, come back to me when there's science, lady. Tell me about the herbs and the probiotics. But I'm going to ask you to actually stick around and watch this video because it seems really soft and really frou-frou to talk about gratitude. Like, oh, just keep a gratitude journal and your IBS will go away, I promise. I'm not saying that. But what I want to show you in today's video is a look at some of the science about gratitude and how practicing gratitude in whatever way you see fit can actually impact your physiology. It can lower your inflammation and it can help your vagus nerve function better. And therefore, if it affects inflammation and your vagus nerve, then perhaps it will be helpful in treating whatever gut problems brought you here to my channel. So without further ado, let me go ahead and minimize my little bubble here, and I will show you some of the papers that I dug up for today's discussion. So I'll start off with something that is tangentially related to gratitude, and that is optimism versus pessimism. So, if you think about it, if I'm asking you to practice gratitude, and you start making a list, or you start keeping a journal, or whatever it is, to have the ability and have the perspective to say, I'm grateful that I have water to drink. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful I have electricity. I'm grateful I have an appendix, whatever it might be. You have to be at least somewhat optimistic, right? Like, if you're totally pessimistic, you're going to have a really hard time getting into that gratitude mindset. So that's why we're starting here, and then I'll show you some papers specifically related to gratitude itself. But if you look, this one was 2017, and the title is Optimism and Cause-Specific Mortality, a Prospective Cohort Study. And they use data from the Nurses' Health Study. So this is 70,021 people in the study. Larger studies usually confer better data collection, typically. And what they were able to show in this study was that people who were optimistic actually had a lower risk of mortality from heart disease and respiratory disease and infection. So, how many people does that kill in the United States alone every single year? Heart disease, huge killer of men and women. Respiratory disease, infectious disease, hello, COVID-19. Like, this is huge, huge stuff. And you literally lower your risk of these inflammatory and immune dysregulated diseases by just being more optimistic. Now, the opposite is also relevant, and that is pessimism. So you could either be a negative Nancy or you could be, a optimistic person in any context, whether it's situational or whether it's just as a rule of thumb in your life. But this is a 2009 paper titled Pessimism Correlates with Leukocyte Telomere Shortness and Elevated Interleukin-6 in Postmenopausal Women. So in this study, they had 36 postmenopausal women that they deemed to be healthy. And when they studied this, they said that people who were more pessimistic not only had elevated interleukin-6 levels. For those of you who might not be immunology buffs like me, interleukin-6 is a nasty, nasty inflammatory cytokine. It's one of your body's biggest and nastiest inflammatory mediators in the body, and it is cooking up all sorts of trouble. It's associated with a myriad of diseases ranging from heart attack, stroke, autoimmune disease, cancer, you name it. If it's inflammatory and it's going to kill you, interleukin-6 is probably involved. So pessimistic people have elevated levels of interleukin-6, elevated levels of inflammation, and they have shorter telomeres. For those of you who don't know, telomeres are like the end caps that go on the ends of our chromosomes, and they protect the DNA from mutations and damage. And generally speaking, long telomeres are associated with youth and a long lifespan, or at least a long lifespan left to live, versus short telomeres are associated with all-cause mortality and death and aging and not being healthy. So it's a good thing to have nice, long, healthy telomeres. But which would you rather do? Would you rather spend gobs of money on a fancy schmancy telomere lengthening supplement? Because they do exist, believe me. Or would you rather just try to shift your mindset a bit and not be such a damn negative Nancy in your life? I mean, taking the supplement might be easier, honestly, but optimism is free. I'm going to choose this every day of the world. Okay, then getting into gratitude specifically, dispositional gratitude moderates the association between socioeconomic status and interleukin-6. So in this study, what they showed, and this was 1,000 or so people in this study, they were able to show that being of low socioeconomic status is normally associated with higher interleukin-6. Again, the poorer you are, the less well off you are, the higher that inflammation as a tendency across the population. But the people who had some measurement of gratitude in their, in this assessment, the people who practiced more gratitude and were more grateful negated that effect. So for the normal people who don't practice gratitude or are not grateful on a day-to-day, low socioeconomic status to some degree, and I know this is extreme, to some degree is going to doom you to be more inflamed. But you can still be of a low socioeconomic status, and you can be grateful for what you do have, and you can practice gratitude in some way, and that will negate the rise in interleukin-6. Pretty wild, pretty cool. Then, here's another study. A 6-week worksite positivity program leads to greater life satisfaction, decreased inflammation, and greater number of employees with A1C levels in range. And this is pretty new, 2019. Now, some of the numbers are not ultra compelling, honestly. Like, I wonder who the statistician was on this paper. But if you look, there was a 6-week intervention. They measured a bunch of stuff. It was 63 employees. So, it's something. It's kind of small, but still something. And they practiced gratitude, they did the hearth maths, heart lock-in, and they did some yoga stretches with guided imagery. And they said that there was recorded improvements in life satisfaction as well as 7 of the 10 cardiovascular and inflammatory biomarkers. The one that I want to draw your attention to right here is C-reactive protein, which dropped by 27%. That should be like, OMG, that's amazing in your brain, because C-reactive protein is positively associated with things like heart attack and stroke and Alzheimer's and just all-cause mortality. And it is primarily going to be elevated because of interleukin-6. So if you look, they actually did not measure interleukin-6 in this particular study. They measured CRP instead. So it's not exactly the same, but you can kind of gauge it as roughly equivalent that they saw a 27% drop in the same nasty style of inflammation as they did in that other study. And this was 6 weeks of doing heart math, practicing gratitude, and doing some guided imagery with yoga stretches. Like, how obtainable is that? There's a million different yoga videos on YouTube. You could get heart math for really cheap, or you could even just do it without the heart math, honestly. Or you could do gratitude journaling. You could do so many things. There are apps on the damn smartphone that will send you a reminder that says, what are you grateful for today? And I know it because I have one that goes off on my phone every single day. Like, these are things that are so obtainable for every person. You don't need the fancy supplements to just practice gratitude in your life. But you can see they measured other stuff too. So the A1C, the glucose, myeloperoxidase, a lot of these were not very impressive, like 1 or 2% change, but some of them did change. And C-reactive protein, that inflammation marker, was the most profound at a 27% drop. That is so cool. That is so fantastic. Here's another one. Exploring neural mechanisms of the health benefits of gratitude in women, a randomized controlled trial. So in this study, you can see they actually did MRIs, and they were looking at the connectedness between different areas of the brain, and then they were looking at some other stuff. They did a 6-week online gratitude program, or the control, and writing intervention. Let's see. They said, all right, there's no significant group differences in neural response to the gratitude or threat task. Oh yes, and they actually did a threat kind of simulation as well. Okay, however, across the entire sample, those who showed larger pre- and post-intervention increases in self-reported support giving showed larger reductions in amygdala reactivity following the gratitude task. So what they're talking about is the people who self-assessed on the questionnaires that they were helping other people more. They were doing things for other people, that self-reported support giving, as they called it. People who were supporting other people more, and they had a larger increase in that after the gratitude practice, also had less reactivity and less connectedness in the amygdala. The amygdala is the part of your brain that is chiefly in charge of the trauma response, the fight or flight response, That is the part of your nervous system that assesses danger and threat. So the amygdala is taking a chill pill and the nervous system is calming down as a result, theoretically, because of the gratitude practice. And one of the things that they measured to support that was the self-assessed support giving. So whether people were saying that they were volunteering or helping out friends or helping out family or giving people a ride to the airport or whatever it might have been, they were helping people more because of this gratitude practice, in theory, and then that was actually changing their brain. Their brain! And then remember the gut-brain axis, guys. Like, this is huge for anybody with IBS, I'm telling you. Let alone anybody who wants a functional brain. Here's another few. Effects of gratitude meditation on neural network functional connectivity and brain-heart coupling. Similarly, they showed that there was a lower heart rate after the intervention, and the connectedness in the brain when they were looking at connectedness was improved or was better with the people who did the gratitude. So huge. This one I'm not entirely clear on. The next two papers are from the same researcher, the Stephen Gallagher. They talk about state versus trait gratitude, and what I could wrap my head around by revisiting this paper briefly was that trait gratitude is more of like your inherent nature, like just on a day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year basis, like generally how much gratitude you have, versus state is more like you're grateful for something that happened today, or you're grateful for something that happened like this week. That's at least my understanding of it as of this point. But nonetheless, 2020, state but not trait gratitude is associated with cardiovascular response and acute physiological stress. To acute physiological stress, I'm sorry. And they noticed that there was a change in systolic blood pressure, and heart rate after people were doing, it was 86 young adults were doing this study. So pretty cool. And it maybe doesn't mean that you have to be like the most inherently optimistic person as a trait. At least this is what I'm deeming from this study. But if you can make an effort to show gratitude anyway, I think that's what it really comes down to. Here's another one, same research group. State gratitude is associated with lower cardiovascular responses to acute physiological stress, a replication and extension. So I believe this is after the first paper, and they went ahead and they did it again to see if they could prove the point again. And similarly, they got the same results. They had changes in blood pressure and heart rate and reactivity, and it seemed to be more related to what they called state gratitude as opposed to trait gratitude. This was very interesting too. This is a little bit, again, tangentially related. Apology and restitution, the psychophysiology of forgiveness after accountable relational repair responses. So basically they were studying people, 32 men, 29 women, and they were looking to see what had the more profound effect or if this changed symptoms of their nervous system at all. So they were looking, for example, let's see, heart rate, pressure, indicative of cardiac stress, and then they looked at the muscles like in under and around the eyes. But these people were saying that, so if somebody does something bad to you, like say a friend steals your favorite Britney Spears CD, right? If the friend apologizes to you, it does calm your nervous system down, and it does help with the responsiveness to that stress. It does take away some of that stress if you get an apology and you get to connect with that human being. But even more so is if your friend gives back the damn Britney Spears CD or replaces it, so that's the restitution part of it, then that was even more of an impact on the nervous system. So in whatever way you can, you know, it's not that you go around demanding an apology or restitution from everybody who's wronged you, but maybe you could try to pay it forward and apologize to people that you may have wronged in some way. I don't know. I think that part of this is trying to help other people heal their nervous system, even if it has no profound benefit on your own nervous system. I feel like that's still a good thing to do. So this is a little bit the flip side of the equation here, but nonetheless, it was an interesting study. And then here's another one, last one, and then I'll cut it out on the nerdiness. pilot randomized study of the gratitude journaling intervention on heart rate variability and inflammatory biomarkers in patients with stage B heart failure. So they were talking about this is stage B asymptomatic heart failure. And they had 70 patients, average age about 62 or 66.2 years. And they were randomized to either do 8 weeks of gratitude journaling or regular old conventional medical treatment. They did questionnaires. They looked at resting heart rate variability, which is going to be a reflective marker of vagal tone and health, right? If you have higher heart rate variability, that suggests that your vagus nerve and your parasympathetic nervous system is healthier. And inflammatory biomarker index. And then they said down here, the gratitude intervention was associated with improved trait gratitude scores, reduced inflammatory biomarker index score over time, and increased parasympathetic HRV responses during the gratitude journaling task compared with the treatment as usual. So pretty neat, right? And it's interesting that they bring up the trait gratitude thing again. So again, if I'm interpreting these definitions correctly, I think that means that after the 8 weeks of the gratitude journaling exercise, I think it means that they actually just, like your kind of baseline, your autopilot response to the world, you actually become more inherently wired for gratitude and optimism as a result of flexing that muscle for 8 weeks. That's the way to think of it, is like you have to intentionally work out that muscle, at least in the beginning of a new intervention. Like if you had been a pessimistic, crabby person all of your life, I don't know you, but like if you've been pessimistic and crabby and negative all of your life, then you might have to intentionally flex that muscle and intentionally wire that up and like form the circuitry in your brain, like form the synapses in your brain. And then after a while, your body's going to get the hang of it. Your nervous system will get the hang of it. And then you will just be more inherently optimistic and express more gratitude in your day-to-day life. But to use a bad term, you kind of have to fake it till you make it a little bit in a weird way. Like you have to kind of exercise that muscle intentionally in hopes that you build that into your background kind of life over time. So anyway, these are just a few papers, but again, I think that it really is telling that gratitude and being optimistic literally lowers inflammatory markers and cytokines. So on some genetic level, your body knows what you're doing, and it knows what you're thinking, and it knows what you're saying, and it's taking that information and changing your genetic transcription because of it. But you can literally lower inflammation, one paper said by about 27%, which is pretty darn significant. And you can get better vagal nerve tone and better sympathetic nervous system function as a result of being optimistic and expressing gratitude in your life. And honestly, I know some of you guys know my health history, especially if you listen to the IBS Freedom podcast. Amy and I talked all about our health in the first episode and our journey to become practitioners who work with others with IBS. But I look back at my health history and at some level, I'm like, damn, like, how am I as healthy as I am? And I say that like it just kind of bewildered and also so grateful for it. But I look back, I've had so many antibiotics. I've had surgeries. I've had a bad, not only Lyme disease, but like a really bad case of Lyme disease. I had a really bad concussion. Like I have all this stuff that should have set me up for a world of health problems later in my life. And I feel like I'm pretty healthy. And I think a really big part of that I've said, I have chalked it up to two things primarily up until this point in my life. I think one of the greatest assets I have is that I am generally a very optimistic person, and I'm very grateful for what I do have. Even when I want more, I'm grateful for what I do have. I'm grateful for this wonderful office, and I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my husband, my kid, the health that I do have. Like, just having gratitude for what you do have is a skill that, for whatever reason, I've honed in over the years, and I think that I'm a fairly grateful person, and I'm very optimistic. So I think that coupled with I'm pretty easygoing and like go with the flow, I think that those parts of my personality and how I live my life have set me up very well. And the other thing is I grew up on a farm. So while I was taking antibiotics repeatedly in my childhood, I was also literally like in and around horse manure and filthy barn cats. and like nasty chickens and goats and stuff. And I think the filth that was around me, my husband jokes that I was kind of like Pigpen from the, what do you call it? The Peanuts, the Charlie Brown cartoons, like the kid who's walking around with literally a cloud of filth around him. That was me in my childhood. And I'm grateful for that because looking back, having had that many antibiotics in my childhood, if I lived, say, in a city and lived with parents who sanitized the shit out of everything, probably would have been a different story. But I really think that this is a big part of the health story. Again, to what degree you implement this is up to you. Like I said, there are apps that can help you with this. There are gratitude journals on Amazon. Some of them are very cheap. You could just write on plain old paper what you're grateful for. You could make a big old poster. You could get a dry erase board or a poster, and you could just add to the list every single day until you fill up the piece of paper. I mean, you could just meditate on something you're grateful for. You could do some sort of guided meditation. You could just roll over in bed and tell your spouse before you go to bed, hey, I'm grateful for X today. What are you grateful for? You could do this in so many different ways, and you could either keep it to yourself or you could share it with the world. But if you could express some gratitude, not just on Thanksgiving, but every day of the year, I really think that it is going to positively impact your health. And with that being said, I am grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming along for this ride and visiting my YouTube channel. I know, some of you are here because of IBS, some of you are here because of SIBO, IBD, whatever the case may be. I'm just so grateful that each and every one of you has decided to come watch my videos, subscribe to the channel. I hope that you all are checking out the IBS Freedom podcast. It is truly the joy of my life. I love it so much. And Amy and I have such a blast making these episodes for you. We've got some really great topics coming up for that matter as well. But I just hope that you're checking that out as well. I'm also spending a lot of time on Instagram right now because I just realized Instagram Reels are such a great outlet for my weirdness and also to get educational content out there that's really fun and lighthearted. So if you haven't checked me out on Instagram yet, my handle is Triangle Guts. That's Guts, plural, because I'm in the Triangle of North Carolina. For those of you who don't know, the reason why I named my channel this. And yeah, I'm grateful for every one of you. I am honestly going to take a little bit of a breather from YouTube though. I'm grateful for you, but I have to be mindful of my adrenals and my autonomic nervous system. I am just wrapping up FODMAP Freedom this week, which I adore so much, but with the extra work of the Q&As and everything going on in my personal life and the holidays, I've just decided, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and I'll probably just do another 1 or 2 videos this year in December, and then I think I'm going to take a little breather for the holidays, and then I will come back with more educational content and more fun content for you in January. For that matter, I will try to leave a link in the description down below or the first comment. I do have an active survey that's open and you can fill that out at any time, letting me know if there's a particular topic that you would like to see. I'm always gathering ideas for what other topics I can cover on this YouTube channel, and I like to gauge what you're interested in and what you would like to see. So if you want to fill that out and give me feedback about what you would like to see on this YouTube channel, I would love to take that into consideration. And like I said, I will see you for a few more videos in 2021, and then the new year will be upon us before we know it, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.